Christy Jordan.
And I'm Elisa DeSalvo.
And this is Narrow Path Living. In this show, Elisa and I share our hearts and strategies on how we navigate living in the world while not being of the world, learning how to walk in the footsteps of Messiah in modern day America.
So come join us as we share our hearts, our lives, and the lessons we're learning along the way while seeking to be hearers and doers of the Word of God. The path may be narrow,
but you never truly walk it alone. Bless, bless, bless. Okay, so what are we going to talk about?
Well, we can talk about kindness. We can talk about your post today if you wanted to.
I just want to make sure I don't end up talking bad. I don't want it to sound like we're talking about people who leave comments, you know.
Okay, so why don't we just talk about what we're doing here?
Okay.
Why don't you talk about what we're doing here, and I will nod and smile and say yes.
Okay, you ready?
Yes.
Hey everybody, I'm Christy Jordan with SeekingScripture.com, and I am here with my dear friend Elisa DeSalvo, and welcome to the first episode of Narrow Path Living. In this show, Elisa and I want to share our hearts and some of our strategies on how we navigate living in the world while not being of the world, walking out our walk and seeking that narrow path, because there's more than one wide path. And so it's really easy to end up on one of those instead of that straight and narrow. And in today's world, we have so much disconnect. We have so much distance between us. We're lacking those personal friendships and relationships that we used to have in other generations, where we would sit down at the breakfast table with our grandmother, our mother, and we would talk over our day, and they would give us life advice. And we're kind of missing that today. And so a lot of us find ourselves feeling very isolated and very much alone in the world. And in our endeavors to walk this narrow path, it really helps to have a friend kind of walk it out with us. And so that is our goal in this show. However often we're going to post it, is to just kind of be that friend and offer that advice. Elisa, take it away.
Oh, I don't know what to say after that. I love that though, because it's so important in today's society to have people that are walking the same path. It's important for us to come alongside of each other and have people to talk about things. You know, we read our Bibles and we discuss scholarly things, but what we don't really discuss is the practical application.
Mm-hmm.
You know, how do we go out and love our neighbor, and how do we love our husband, and how do we do these things? How do we be kind to one another? What does that look like? What does it look like in our practical day? What does it look like when we're online on Facebook? You know, we just don't have that. So hopefully we can talk about those things.
Yes, and we're going to talk about different problems that we encounter, different ways Elisa and I kind of order our day. We are by no means perfect. We are two sisters, and we do sisters in Messiah, and we do share very much the same heart. We joke about sharing the same brain as well. And so Elisa and I are both, we're mothers, we're wives. Both of us have kids that are grown, pretty much grown. The youngest is my daughter. She's 17, and Emily is 22, right?
21. She's
21.
She's 21. Yeah.
So we've been around the block a few times, and we just, our heart is in encouraging others. Both of us, we really like to encourage others and help others when we can. So we didn't know if we were going to have a topic today. We were just going to kind of wing it and see how this one goes. Future shows will be a little more organized. But one of the things that Elisa and I have been talking about, and it's something that we talk about all the time, is the need for kindness, compassion, and grace among the body of believers, and from the body of believers to those outside of the body. Elisa and I both share very common ideas about, we're not going to attract people to the body by beating them over the head and condemning them and behaving in all these ways that the Bible clearly tells us not to do. I think the world has wooed us away from fruits of the spirit, and instead we go out into the world and all we see is fruits of the flesh. And so we kind of follow suit with anger, envy, strife, and it's just, it's hard. It's hard being a believer in this
Well,
world.
I think we also we get this idea that our example of love should look like Messiah when he flipped the tables.
Yes.
This is not the definition of love that we see in the Bible. We're supposed to be patient and kind and all of these things. That was a different situation, but it is not our example of how we're supposed to walk every day. This is not the definition of kindness for us.
Yeah, and a lot of
So,
times we do we treat the example of Messiah like a lot of us do the Bible. We pull out one verse, ignore the rest, and we pull
right,
out that one incident. And people say, well, Messiah told us to love our neighbors. Well, Messiah also flipped tables. I'm like, well, he also died for our sins. So you want to go all the way with that, or we
right,
want to follow the orders he gave us? Love
right.
one another as I have loved you. Love your neighbor as yourself. And, I think, Elisa, and I know you know this, we've talked about this and studied this ourselves, but in the context of what Messiah was saying, when he shared the story of the Good Samaritan, what most people don't realize is the Jews, Samaritans were a sect of Judaism, and the Jews hated the Samaritans. They hated
Right.
them. So he wasn't just saying, love this man who was kind to somebody as he walked down the road. He's saying, those people that you want to hate, I want you to love them.
Right.
And that's easier said than done.
Absolutely. It is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. Love is not easy. Absolutely, it's not easy. But I think that as we grow in the spirit and we start praying to love people the way he loves people, because that really changed my walk. And I know that you've talked about how it changed your walk, and you inspired me to make those prayers, but it changed everything. So when I love people, it's so different now than it used to be. And it's kind of phenomenal. Sometimes I look at myself doing this, and it's as if I'm not doing it. You know what I mean? Like you're having this,
Absolutely.
you're watching yourself do this, and it's just amazing.
That
So
is a fruit that he's planted in you, that you
exactly.
couldn't do it on your own. And that's evidence of the Holy Spirit. That's evidence of his spirit, because
Right.
on our own, we don't grow those fruits. We only grow
Right.
those with him, not apart from him. So yeah,
Exactly.
when I asked the Father years ago, help me look at people and feel the love for them that you feel. And that's definitely a game changer. And it makes more of a difference today than it ever has before, because when does the light shine brightest? In the darkness. And so many people need love, and I see so many people confused and hurting, and they're searching and they're longing, and these are the times where the Father is drawing them in. And so often I see believers shouting them away,
Oh
and
yeah.
it's
Yeah,
hard. Yeah.
it is. Absolutely.
Scaring them away from the body. So yeah. I definitely I posted something, we talked about this. I posted something on Facebook earlier today, I try to keep my post mostly to Bible verses. Keeps you out of trouble.
Yes.
Elisa's pretty much the same. But every now and then I will have something other than a Bible verse I want to post. And I usually send it to Elisa. Can I do this? I ask for permission. I'm actually, that's I know I trust Elisa that if I'm out of line, she's going to call me on it. She's going to tell me, and I've sent her things before and she'll say, "Why do you want to post this?" And then I'll have to kind of explain myself to her, and then she'll say, "Well, okay, then you can post it." We have that kind of a relationship.
We
And I
do.
hope y'all have relationships like that, because we can bounce things off each other. And I know that she's going to tell me if I'm out of line. So today I posted something. Let me find it here. Elisa gave me permission to post it. Elisa gave me permission. We really ought to spend less time on hate and more time in the word. Our world wouldn't be quite so broken if more folks who call themselves by his name were opening Bibles instead of picking up stones. And the thing is, when I post things like this, when Elisa, if she were to post things like this, Elisa and I both identify with this. We have both
Absolutely.
had those times in our walk where we reached for the stone before we reached for the Bible. And it's hard on us looking back on that. And we know that we grieved the Father when we behaved that way. And so it's hard on us seeing other brothers and sisters behaving that way, because we know that they're grieving the Father. And we also know that they've got their own grief coming when they look back on that as well. And when I post things like this, the thing that bothers me every time I post something about loving your neighbor, so Messiah said, love your neighbor, love one another as I have loved you. And every time you post something like that, you could post a direct post from Messiah. Somebody is going to come and say, yes, but, and they're going to offer their exception. Well, in this, Messiah said, love one another as I have loved you. And there was a period at the end. He didn't say unless or if, he said, love one another as I've loved you. And we like to put commas where Messiah had a single statement that ended there. And that's hard.
It is hard. I often think about, so we're supposed to love our neighbor as we love ourselves. So I don't know about you, but if I loved other people the way I love myself, I would walk around hating everybody, because how many of us truly love ourselves, right? We are so quick to accept the negative into our self-talk, and we really just don't love ourselves. So it's difficult, I think, sometimes to love others when we don't love ourselves either, because we're supposed to love them as we love ourselves. So sometimes I think that maybe loving your neighbor kind of starts with yourself, that we have to start taking our thoughts captive and thinking about what is good and pure and all of these things. And as we start accepting the good about ourselves, we can love others, because we're able to see that they also probably dislike themselves or hate themselves for whatever reasons. So I often think about that, because I used to have very negative self-talk.
Oh, me too. I get that. I think a lot of that also comes from an ever growing closer to the Father and understanding how he loves us. I really struggled most of
Yes.
my walk with being able to accept that the Father loved me. That was something I really struggled with. Once we are able to grasp that the Father loves us, once we are fully able to understand that Messiah loved us so much, he was willing to die for us. Now, of course, he did it for he died for all who would call upon him, but it was also personal. Messiah, if it had just been you, Elisa, if it had
Right.
just been me, he still would have done that. And when we
Absolutely.
understand that, it just, it breaks your heart and it fills it up at the same time. But when
It
it comes to
does.
loving others, I think the way I look at it is, you know, part of my journey to being able to understand that the Father loved me. I'm gonna give y'all the short version. Bear with me. It hurt every time I would read something about the Father loving me, or I would try to think about him loving me. I would I didn't feel it. And so it actually hurt. It was we pierce ourselves with many arrows. And that was one of the arrows I pierced myself with every time I would think about his love, is that I couldn't accept that he actually loved me. And so one day I sat down with a notebook and a pen and I said, Father, I don't know how to solve this problem. I don't know how to accept that you love me, but I know that you know how to solve this. And so every day until we work this out, I'm just going to give you a blank page and I'm just going to fill it in and we're going to start from there. And so each day I would set aside some time with my notebook and my pen. The first day I started, I wrote Corinthians, love is patient, love is kind, Corinthians 13. I don't know if it's first or second. I think it's second.
Mm.
Anyway, love is patient, love is kind. And then the next day I would just start looking for all these different verses in the Bible about love. And I would just, and some days I would write an honest letter to him about how much this hurt me. I was very honest with him. You can be honest with the Father about your feelings and he can take it. He can take it. If you're mad at the Father, if we get angry sometimes, he already knows. So don't lie to him. He can take honesty. And so I did this every single day. And short version, I won't go through the whole process of how it came, but it took about a year. And one day I understood. It hit all of a sudden, the understanding just kind of flooded in. And I realized that I was thinking that I had to earn his love or I had to be worthy of his love. And so I was looking at myself as not worthy and not able to earn this and stuff. And I really had to digest and process the fact that he didn't love me because of anything I had done or anything I was able to do or going to do. He loved me because, and this is where my mother's heart really helped. He loved me because I'm his baby girl. You look at as a mother, you hold your child and you think, I love you because you're you. You are my baby and I treasure you. And so being a mother really helps me. Being a parent, I look at people and I think that's his baby. You look at somebody and they may be in a really bad place in their life for whatever reason. You can think of all the different reasons. And no matter what they're going through, no matter what their struggle, that's the Father's baby. And Messiah would come and he would feel compassion for them. And even if it was just them, he would die for them, no matter who
Absolutely.
you look at. And so that really that helps me. But yeah, we do. I think, we come from a place where we don't think we're worthy and we don't hold ourselves in very high esteem. And it's such a weird balance to go from there to understanding our worth and value in the eyes of the Father, but yet still we're humble because we know how much grace has been shown to us. And so it's such a small thing to be able to show grace to others. But it's so easy to get on that wide path of being a Pharisee.
It is. It is so easy.
And I
We
think,
forget.
yeah,
We forget about that grace. And what is the parable that, is it the dishonest manager? I think the parable where he owes money and he's forgiven the debt, but then he turns
Oh,
around and he makes
yes.
everybody pay theirs. And I think about that every time I think about grace, because the Father shows us so much grace. He shows us so much grace, and he has forgiven our debt, right? But what do? We turn around and we make people pay their debt to us. We have no
That's hard.
grace
Yeah.
for them. And I think that that's something that we have to bear in mind.
Yeah. That's a tough one. That's tough. And it's hard seeing it around you. But also when we see these things around us and we see people having no grace with others and we see believers being harsh instead of
Right,
loving. It's hard. It's doubly hard because we also are reminded of when we were like that. And so we
right.
have to show them grace as well and hope that they can get to the point where they can see the beam in their eye as well. And also we always know when we see a beam, when we notice a beam in a brother's eye, we always know that we have one in ours as well. I always know that there's something that I am missing. There's still something that I'm doing because there's many things that I'm doing. It is a process. This refiner's fire is a process of melting away the impurities. And every day he's going to be working on us. And I'm so grateful that he's always working on me. And I want to apologize to all of you for making him work overtime on me. But the
Wait a
refiner's
minute.
fire.
He's working on me all the time too. So I don't know how he has time for you.
I promise. You know what I tell all of my friends are better people than me. And Elisa is a shining example of that. She's a much better person
No.
than me.
Nope.
But that that refiner's fire, something I always tell people in the Bible study and stuff, it gets hot and it's uncomfortable. But when you're in that refiner's fire, you're also in the refiner's hand. And there is no better place to be. So
Absolutely.
we have to encourage one another. And that's what, I'm so grateful that the Father has given me the friends that he has. When you seek him with your whole heart, he will bring support system along when you need it. I do want to encourage anybody who doesn't have those iron sharpens iron friends right now, that there was a time where I didn't have these people in my life. He brought me out to a desert, and that was so my focus would be on him. We do have a tendency, I think, as humans to follow people that we think are following the Father. And so he has to kind of bring us out to this quiet place. So we will only focus on him. And that's where he trains us and we get our assignments. And then at the right time, he'll bring the people in our lives.
And he lets you know that you can do this. You can do this on your own. You don't need to follow someone. You do need people with you to come alongside you, but you don't need someone to teach you. And that's
a very controversial statement nowadays. That is a very controversial statement.
I guess it is. It really is. But
people will take great exception to that. Yeah. But, because my experience with that is, of course, from reading the Bible. Because most of my life I was taught that I wasn't smart enough to read it or understand it on my own, that I needed to have someone else read it for me and tell me what it meant, tell me what it said. And I believe that. And I ended up following people who I thought were following the word. And then when I dedicated myself to actually reading the word firsthand, I was very hurt to find that it didn't say what I had been told it said, that I had kind of had several filters put before my eyes, and I felt like something was missing. And so the Father led me to read his word and to seek him with my whole heart. And he filled in all those missing places. So yeah, that was a very controversial statement, Elise.
I'm sorry.
You're gonna get people coming after us with torches up the hill. Won't be anything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's true though. We have to encourage people in the word. I want everybody watching this to know you were meant to read the Bible. You can understand it. You have to begin in the beginning, though. We can't just open it up and point. I actually saw somebody the other day that said, whenever I want to read the word, I just sit down and open it up wherever it is and wherever it lands and start reading it. Well, you know, that's great to get the word in, but it's not a magic 8 ball. It is a continuous story, and it begins in the beginning, and we
Okay.
have to read it through.
So I have to tell you, like, oh, I don't know how many years ago, 15 years ago, maybe. I was kind
So
of
when you
new
were
in the
like 5,
church. Yeah, right. Um, I remember someone telling me that and going home and trying it, and I would just open the Bible and I would read it and I would go, I don't know what this means.
mhm,
How does this help me? you
yeah,
know?
I was told that too. Or they would say, I would say, I really want to study the Bible. I really want to know the Bible. And where do I begin? And they would say, oh, just read Galatians. And
Yep,
that was it. Just read Galatians. Take this one tiny little letter. I think it's 3 pages in my Bible. Ignore
right.
everything else and just pull that completely out of context. And there's over 30,000 verses in the Bible. And every verse in the Bible, you can take it out and ignore all the rest, or you can realize that every verse in the Bible has all those other verses around it, weighing down on it. And that is the context. And we have to read the whole thing
Right.
in context to understand it. And honestly, when you realize how much he loves you, the magnitude of who he is, why would we not want to soak up every single possible word of his that we could?
Exactly.
So yeah, I call that when I started reading the whole Bible, that's when I came into the fullness of my faith. That's when it really it was no longer just words on a page. It became the world. I began to see the world that the Father had crafted and how I fit into it and how to live in the world according to how he's called me to live.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's the greatest encouragement. It's just the
It
Father's presence in our lives.
it is absolutely. Um, I'm sure most everybody who knows me knows that I wasn't raised in the church. And so anything I knew was just what I had been told or caught bits and pieces of. Um, other than um, other than the little bit I had read, you know, but mostly Genesis. But but when I got into
You
the
had the little Noah's
church,
Ark bath set. That's
I
what
did
I had.
not. That was probably, I'm probably too old to have that.
I
Uh,
had that. You're
but
the
I
same age
had,
as me.
uh, no, I'm a little older, but I had that Bible, the book of Bible stories.
Hmm.
I had that and I read that a lot, but I did get a Bible and I did read Genesis. That's about all I got through. But so I wasn't raised in the church. And then when I got in the church, they were like, here, basically just read the New Testament. And I always had all of these questions and I didn't understand things. And I didn't know why I didn't understand things. It seemed like it was written in another language, like they were talking about concepts that I couldn't identify and I didn't know what they were. And I really struggled with it a lot. And I think I drove Jared crazy because I always had all of these questions. I don't understand. So I began to read it from the beginning. And then I started asking questions, that were different. And I don't know, when you get the answers, it's kind of mind blowing.
It's even more
It really
amazing when you get the
changed.
answers from him.
Yes, absolutely.
So that is something we have in common. And I think we're coming to our limit here because I have to upgrade to the paid account before we do these things. So I think we're coming to our limit, but that's something we have in common is we both really encountered the word as an adult. And I think that
Mhm.
gives us an advantage because none of this was something that everything was astounding and new to us. We didn't take any of these miracles for granted. And so I think
Right.
that's definitely something we should talk about next time we get together. So
Okay.
on our second episode of Narrow Path Living, Elise and I are going to talk about our backgrounds and how the advantages that we had coming to the word as adults. A lot of people see those as disadvantages, and they're a little bit, their hearts hurt a little that they weren't raised in the church, which of course it's a wonderful thing to be raised in the church, to be able to give that to your child, to be raised in the body of believers. It's a wonderful thing to be raised in the word, and we weren't. And so on the next episode, we're going to talk about how the advantages that the Father gave us in the other side of coming to the Bible as an adult. So thank y'all for joining us. Elisa, thank you for going along with my harebrained idea.
Well, you're welcome. I'm glad to be here.
She never has a choice. So we will see you next time, y'all. If you have any topics you want us to talk about, make sure you leave them in the comments, and we will plan on answering any questions and things you have in future videos. We're happy to do that. Just kind of consider us your sisters, your Shalomi sisters. If you're if you're younger, you consider us your aunts or your adopted moms.
I like aunts.
Aunts.
I like
we'll be your
aunts.
aunts. We'll be your aunts.
I don't need any older children.
Okay, so Aunt Elisa and Aunt Christy, let us know, and we are happy to help you.
Auntie Elisa. You can call me Auntie Elisa.
Why are you Auntie? That's like a Texas thing now? Auntie
No,
Elisa?
it just sounds better with Elisa than Aunt.
Oh, okay. Auntie Elisa. We're aunts. We're aunts in Alabama. Elisa's from Texas. So I'm gonna let y'all go. Thank you so much. We'll be back. Y'all leave your questions and ideas for future videos with me and with Aunt Christy and Auntie Elisa in the comments. And know that we love y'all, and we look forward to spending more time with you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
You should do the island too. I like the
remember.
island. It makes us look skinny and tropical.
How did you do it?
Wait, now I'm trying to get, I've done something. What? What? What did you do? Did you do such up appearance? It gave you really big eyebrows. What did you do?
I put eyebrows on.
You have that option?
Yeah.
Where do you have
funny
this option?
Okay, so let me go
filters.
To filters, studio effects. Go to studio effects. And then you have eyebrows and mustaches and
Elisa.
lip colors. Look,
Elisa.
I can change. Do you see my lips? I'm
trying not to cry.
It's good that we do this now and not later while we're talking.